Why didn't the Rebbe ever travel to Eretz Yisrael?
The answer to that question is I have no idea. Why did the Rebbe not travel to Eretz Yisrael? Nobody knows. But there's a couple of things that we do know. And we know them because of things the Rebbe said to people. There is a sefer which is called Masa HaRebbe Be'eretz HaKodesh. It's a biography of the few weeks that the previous Rebbe spent in Eretz Yisrael in 1929, Tafresh Beites. And in that sefer there's a short little statement repeated by an unknown chassid, by an unidentified chassid, where he relates that the previous Rebbe was asked, the Frierdiker Rebbe was asked, you came to Eretz Yisrael, you brought along your older son-in-law, the Rashak traveled with the previous Rebbe to Eretz Yisrael. Why didn't you bring your second son-in-law? And the previous Rebbe said, because my second son-in-law holds that if he comes to Eretz Yisrael, there's a question whether he's able to leave. That's what's printed in this sefer. Now, to be sure, in the Tzaddiks in the 30s, I think 1934, Tzaddik Dalet, Tzaddik Hey, the previous Rebbe was scheduling a second trip to Eretz Yisrael. And when scheduling that trip, he wrote to his son-in-law, to our Rebbe, and says, this time you're going to join me. Now, of course, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on in people's minds. The fact of the matter is that trip never materialized. I don't know why. We can all presume that's because of health reasons. But this is the story. The Rebbe went to Eretz Yisrael, and our Rebbe did not accompany him. And of course, as you know, and the Rebbe wrote, the previous Rebbe made it very clear that he's not going to Eretz Yisrael as Eretz Yisrael. He's not going to the Holy Land as the Holy Land. He didn't go for Keis Lamaravi. He went for Maras Machpelah. He went for Kevet Avos. He said, I have a tradition of visiting the Tzion of my father, but I can't. So I'm going to visit the Tzion of my father's 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 father. And that's how he defined his trip to Eretz Yisrael, that it was like going to the Yoel. And of course, he also visited many other Kforim. He also visited the Keis Lamaravi, naturally. But that was the union of his trip. As far as the Rebbe goes, the two big points that the Rebbe used to make about going to Eretz Yisrael were, number one, the Rebbe used to say over and over again that the captain is the last one to abandon a sinking ship. You go where you're needed. And the Rebbe said, I need to be in America, where I'm able to reach the maximum number of Jewish people. And I have to reach the Jewish people in America because they need me. And the Rebbe says, I cannot leave America until every single Jew has left America. I have to be the captain and leave the ship last. And there's a little detail that I think people miss. And people miss it because they're not sensitive. You need to understand that the Rebbe had a great influence on Jewish people in Arab countries. Arab countries, particularly Morocco, and to a lesser degree, Tunisia and Algeria. Imagine the Rebbe visited Eretz Yisrael. Imagine. Even once, even for a day. How much damage would that do to this shlichus? And the fact is that the Rebbe's shluchim in the Arab lands, in the North African countries, are responsible for tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Yidden who are closer to the Eibishter and Yereim Shleimim B'Poyel because of that mission. And to the Rebbe, that far outweighs any consideration of going and living in Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe was not a Zionist. The Rebbe didn't believe, I'm sorry for being sarcastic, Bo Ben Gurion v'hamid en alachas, Tayag mitzvahs nitna li Yisrael. The Rebbe gave us 613 mitzvahs. And the Zionists said, you have one mitzvah called Aliyah. The Rebbe Bechal did not believe in Aliyah. The Rebbe, there's a story, the Rebbe met the former chief rabbi Goren in Yechidus. I heard this as a child from one of my teachers, and he asked the Rebbe if the Rebbe supports the idea of Aliyah. And the Rebbe answered him, Ich halt von Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. I support the idea which is brought in Rambam and the Ramban about the mitzvah of establishing, of inhabiting Eretz Yisrael. So we asked him again, what does the Lubavitcher Rebbe think of Aliyah? And the Rebbe answered again, Ich halt von Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. And over and over again, that's how the story ends. Aliyah is a Zionist idea, it's a nationalistic idea, it's not a religious idea. And the Rebbe said, Rebbe, not a politician and not a nationalist. And there is an overlap between some of the ideas that the Zionists had and in Yom that are written in Torah, La Havdalel, Falfi Havdalas. Eretz Yisrael is a holy place. It's a very big mitzvah to live in Eretz Yisrael. It's a big schus to live in Eretz Yisrael. The halacha is living in Eretz Yisrael. It's better to live in a shchuna ra, zwischen Ansei Resha and Eretz Yisrael than to live in a shchuta teva and tzaddikim and chutz laretz. There's a lot of wonderful things set up by living in Eretz Yisrael. But it's only one mitzvah. We have 613 mitzvahs. And the Rebbe's judgment was based very, very heavily on his responsibility. And the idea that the Rebbe could visit and leave, just from the perspective of a captain not abandoning a ship, it's very, very far from simple that the Rebbe should visit Eretz Yisrael because of how it would impact places in the world where Lubavitch was operating that were not favorably disposed towards Eretz Yisrael. And then, of course, there's the issue that the Rebbe also said many times, which is that the Rebbe felt that Api Halacha, if a person goes to Eretz Yisrael, they're not allowed to leave. And of course, this itself has two dimensions. One dimension is, it says in Sfarim, that if you feel that you're not ready to maintain the standard of Yiras Shamayim needed to live in Eretz Yisrael, it's better not to live there than to live there and be over on the mitzvahs that Eretz Yisrael apply. The Ramban holds that all the mitzvahs to do outside of Eretz Yisrael are simply setting up the mitzvahs you're going to do later in Eretz Yisrael when Mashiach comes. And if you're not ready for that responsibility, it's better not to be there than to be there and to be Eved Avedas. And then, of course, the second point is, once you come, you can't leave. There's a video from the Mamish, from Tafshin Nun, 1990, 91, where this Israeli person came to the Rebbe, and he said the Rebbe should come for a few weeks. And the Rebbe said to him, if you will find me a Rov, I'll be able to explain me Hapi Halacha. After I visit Eretz Yisrael, I'll be able to leave. I'll think about it. The Rebbe didn't say I'll follow. I'll think about it. I'll judge it. I'll assess it. I'll decide for myself if I agree with it. And all of this amounts to the Rebbe's position. What is known as a matter of fact, and people should be appreciative of this also, is that Harav Frankel, Rabbi Tuvi Yedidya Frankel, the Shver of the former chief rabbi, Rabbi Lau, he was the Rebbe of Tel Aviv. And he visited the Rebbe. I remember him coming to the Rebbe by Fabrengen, and then he was interviewed in the Kfar Chabad magazine. And he said to him what he said, amongst other things, Nihirin le Shvili de Tel Aviv ke Shvili de Rekir. The Gemara says about Shmuel that Nihirin le Shvili de Rekir ke Shvili de Nardah. He knows the map, he knows the roads of the heavens like he knows the streets in Nardah. So Rabbi Frankel reversed the Maimon Chazal. The Rebbe knows the streets of Tel Aviv like he knows what's happening in the heavens. Every person who spoke to the Rebbe about what's going on at Yisrael, you would think the Rebbe walked the streets. He knew where the fruit vendors were. He knew what's happening in every basement and in every alley. There was such an intimate awareness and connectedness to the minutest detail of every street and every city and every neighborhood in all of Yisrael. He was so there. But the captain goes where he needs to go, and we're of course waiting for the Gula Mitzvah Vashlema, when the Rebbe will lead us all to Eretz Yisrael. B'teva Nirva Nigle, U'Bagola Deidan, and take her from Yad Mamish, and Ad Meher Yodz Dvarei.